All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try to make a quick video here. This video is going to be mainly on how our gear is going to change as a PvP Paladin, especially like Heal Reckoning Paladin, now that AQ40 is out. The actual short answer is that not a lot of gear changes are going to happen. You'd be perfectly fine like dueling maxed geared characters on like Era in the current existing gear that we're probably rocking. But just in case you're looking for upgrades, I'm going to cover them really fast here. Wowhead is a bit messed up right now. It's actually not showing like the base stats on each character. Like Butt Naked Paladin has like 2400 HP or something like that, if memory serves, and just the stats are all messed up here. So we're gonna have to use a combination of the Wowhead to show what we're going for, and then like current existing stats on my Paladin in game. So this is the full. What is it? This is basically phase 3 bis right here. Full phase 3 bis. You can see that we have over 5,500 barely over 5,500 HP. This is with the Wild Blossom Berries from Fellwood, which is by far the easiest and most useful food buff in the game, since all you have to do is drop combat for a second, click the button, and the next thing you know, you have plus 10 stam on your character. But if we remove that, you can see we got 5,400 HP. In AQ40, the only things that really change are as follows. Let's see here. Let's go on over to Wowhead. Yeah, so clearly we're missing like 2,601 HP over here, which is kind of weird. But we go from the belt of the Crusader. Fallen Crusader? No. Grand Crusader? That's next. Rammus, homie. Okay, so your server... Oh, right. Server's going to be doing its thing. Got it. Okay, click this, and then we go over on Crusader. Okay, cool. So let's look at the stat changes. The Girdle of the Fallen, Belt of the Fallen Emperor, that is a plate belt that drops off of Twin Emps that nobody else is going to want, is actually a really good all stats gear for just about every Paladin build that exists, period, like end of story. This is if you have healing in combat. If you don't have healing in combat, like you're a Reckoning Paladin, then this isn't really all that good for you. But for us, it's really good. So we go from 20 strength to, well, you get to see the stats here. We gain some armor. Let's put this on really fast and do it the other way. That'll be a little bit better. Belt. And then we go Fallen Emperor, correct? Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, you gain like a little bit of armor, -3 strength, +3 agility, +2 stamina, +1 intellect. You lose a metric shit ton of spirit. This thing doesn't have any spirit on it whatsoever, but you gain +35 healing, and that's probably a pretty decent trade-off in the grand scheme of things, especially considering that you do go up a tiny bit of armor. But anyways, in my opinion, this is like the only piece of gear out of AQ40 that's really upgrading you outside of the trinkets. The two trinkets in AQ40 that we're really after are Scarab. No. Scarab. It's called a brooch. Bro. Okay. There is... No, that's not it. What the hell is this thing called? Magical target, blah, 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 blah. This we could spell Scarab now. That's nice. Scarab. Yeah, Petrified Scarab. There we go. Alright, so Petrified Scarab and Burrow Shell are the trinkets that we really want out of AQ40. And these are the only 3 pieces of gear we're actually looking for at AQ40. The only other piece of gear that can be possibly mentioned is a Cape of the Trinity. Cape of the Trinity has got like, let's see here. Let's pull it up really fast. Cape of the Trinity. This is also an item almost nobody wants. It's 17 stamina, which is really good for capes. We really want stamina. You'll notice that it has less armor than the Dragon's Blood cape, so that kind of sucks. But unlike the Dragon's Blood cape, it does come with like spell damage and healing, and more importantly, intellect. But either one of these capes is really, really good. It's just that if you're going to get yourself into like a mana war, and you were looking for like a better option than Dragon's Blood Cape for a Mana War type scenario, Cape of the Trinity is better. But as just as a general wear item, the Dragon's Blood Cape is the better one. It is your go-to cape. Most notably because not only does it have more armor, but it has a little bit of arcane resistance on it, and we're starting to value that arcane resist against like mages in particular. Petrified Scarab is, of course, complete and utter bullshit. Increase your spell resistance by 100 for 1 minute. Every time a hostile spell lands on you, this bonus is reduced by 10 resistance. It has a 3-minute cooldown, and the duration of that 100 resist is 1 massive minute. This thing is absolutely terrifying. Mages will hate this with a fiery passion. Like, this trinket just causes you to basically shit on mages. The theoretical counter that mages can do to our arcane resistance is the Eye of Moab, or the Eye of Malm. There we go. That you can get out of AQ40. This becomes a very common trinket that high-level mages and other spellcasters really like to use against us. It says, increases damage done by magical spells in effect by up to 50 and decreases the magical resistances of your spell target by 100 for 30 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. Those two trinkets are kind of like, the counters to each other type of a deal. So if a mage like really wants their sheep to stick for a long period of time, they can pop their Eye of Moab, and it's both useful for them on their burst because plus 50 spell power, but it's also lowering your arcane resist or whatever it is. So blah 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 blah. But of course, Scarab lasts for a minute, and the Eye of Moab only lasts for 30 seconds. And the Petrified Scarab is just insane. Like, I really don't know how to describe it. I've had some people test it before. The Petrified Scarab and the there's another resist trinket from, what the hell is it called? There is another resist trinket that drops in Nax specifically. It's not Glyph of Deflection. It drops off of not Slayer's Crest, not Mark of Kathun, not Eye of Domination. Let's scroll down here. Lotheb. There we go. Lotheb's Reflection. 13 to all resistance trinket. Increase resistances to all School of Magic by 40 for 20 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. This thing is also batshit crazy. More importantly, these two trinkets actually stack together, so you can have like 140 magic resist if you pop them both at the same time. Well, my bad, like 153 magic resistance if you pop them both at the same time. Absolutely amazing, absolutely disgusting. There's so many matchup where popping Petrified Scarab is just absolutely terrifying, especially when your enemy is desperate to try to get like some kind of binary or heartbeat duration style reset on you. Petrified Scarab is just absolutely disgusting. Ooh, my goodness. Thank you for pausing. That's not you, that's me. What else is there to say here? Yeah, so those are the only real things I'm after in AQ40. There's some stuff we have to talk about, though. So there are technically glove upgrades in AQ40, if we're being absolutely technical. A lot of them are... There's a lot of really good all-stat gear gloves. Let's see if I can find... There's like 3 of them, if memory serves. You can go for them if you want, but it's not that big of a deal. What the hell is going on here? Stamina, intellect... Oh, this is Nax Ramus. Okay, that makes sense. Let's scroll down a bit so it doesn't bug out the way it did before. Icebane Gauntlets, no. Ankaraji, Season of Discovery. Got to navigate around the Season of Discovery nonsense. Okay, so here's one that drops off of Vicidius. Strength, Stamina, Intellect, Spirit, increased damage and healing done by spells in effect by 16, improve your chance to get a critical strike by blah blah blah. You can see it's more armor, plus 10 Spirit, 16 spell damage, 16 healing. There's a lot to like about this, right? Theoretically. So what ends up happening to your build is that if you start stripping off your rank 14 gear, which will happen eventually when we get into Nax Ramus, right? When we get into Nax Ramus, we start getting the gauntlets, or the shoulder plates of the Fallen Crusader. We start getting, like, a pair of pants and like a bunch of other little bits of gear here and there, and so these pieces start falling off, and very quickly it becomes worth it to put on these one of these all stat pieces that you can find in AQ40. There's like a couple other ones. Gauntlets of Steadfast Determination. No, that's some tanking crud. Gauntlets, Judgment Gauntlets. Who the hell wants that crap? Redeemed Prophecy. Okay, there's Encourage. Yeah. 12 strength, 20 stamina, 20 intellect, increased healing done by spells and effects up to 37. Let's see what the change is. We gain 3 stamina, 4 intellect, but we lose 1% crit. We gain 37 healing. There's one other pair of gloves in here, I do believe, that is actually really effing good, but I can't remember what the hell it is. It might be male gloves for all I know. But the question becomes, whether we're going to change those gloves or not is really a question about Thick Obsidian Breastplate. So unfortunately, we have to have a conversation about Thick Obsidian Breastplate. Okay, I know I've made videos in the past talking about Thick Obsidian Breastplate and saying it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But back in the day, Thick Obsidian Breastplate didn't have an internal cooldown, as near as I could tell. Or if it had an internal cooldown, it was like 3 seconds or 6 seconds or something. Blizzard actually stealth nerfed the Thick Obsidian Breastplate, I do believe, by giving it a 10-second ICD. And when now that it has a 10-second ICD associated with it, you can see it right here, right? Proc chance 30%, 10-second cooldown. This thing is both still amazingly worth it and probably not worth it all at the same time. It's really, really hard to tell. Thick Obsidian Breastplate has always been something that's really good to keep in your back pocket, and you bring it out for certain matchups. But for the most part, it just kind of sits in your inventory and waits specifically for those matchups. So, for example, if you're fighting a Shaman, Thick Obsidian Breastplate is really good. If you're fighting a Shadow Priest, Thick Obsidian Breastplate is usually really good. If you're fighting... I don't even know if it's good for fighting a Warlock now that I think about it. You kind of want the DPS of other gearing options. But there's a few matchups where Thick Obsidian Breastplate is really good. There's also a bit of nuance in the Thick Obsidian Breastplate. I'm going to run out to my location, if at all possible, here while talking about this. There's a bit of nuance to Thick Obsidian Breastplate when I really stop and think about it. So... let's say I'm running at my enemy and I'm getting spells crashing into me, like against a shaman or something like that, right? Against something I know that's going to be casting pretty much the same kind of spell type, at least over and over again while I'm running at them or running away from them or what the hell. The odds of Thick Obsidian Breastplate proccing within the first 3 spells that hit me are incredibly high. It's going to be like a 90% chance to proc or something like that. I'm actually going to get ready for PvP just in case some shit goes down. Ooh, I actually have to, what am I doing? I have to fly to the town. My inventory, I gotta inventory manage. Wait, I think there's a vendor over here. Could be wrong about that. Anyways, if you do the math on the Thick Obsidian Breastplate, within the first 3 spell casts, there's like a 90% chance that it's gonna proc. Then the thing won't proc again for 10 seconds, which depending upon what you're fighting, could be as many as like 4 spell casts, give or take. Like if you're fighting a shaman, they're doing nothing but like lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. In theory, it'll be 5 spell casts before it can proc again. But you start factoring in travel time of the lightning bolts, spell pushback due to eye for an eye procs and blah 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 blah. And it's actually going to be like 1 every like 4 seconds of what's it called? Pushback, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so there'll be like 4 spell casts coming out of the enemy before it can even proc again. And then once it's able to proc again, I still need to eat like 3 more spell casts before it can proc again. So it goes from being like, within 3 spell casts it procs to it won't proc again until I get hit by like 7 fucking spells. And then after that, it's like 7 and 7 spells over and over again. So what that means is if I was to calculate the odds of it proccing the first time in a fight, proccing and consuming itself a first time in a fight, that's a 30% chance. But if I calculate it proccing twice in a fight, that's more like a 10% chance to proc. And then the further on we go into the time frame, it gets worse and worse and worse down to like, 5% and so forth and so on. So it starts at like, 1 and 3, and then it goes like 1 and 7, 1 and 7, 1 and 7, on into oblivion. However, if you think about how us paladins fight most matchups, and it really depends on what kind of paladin you're playing, that might not be the worst thing in the world. So I'll give you an example. Say I'm fighting with my enemy for a while, and then I like hodge stun them, and I use the hodge stun to heal myself to full, and then they have to start casting a lightning bolt into my face, and I bitch slap them so they get like 1 second worth of spell pushback or something like that before they're able to like hit me with some spells, or maybe they blast me with like an instant, spell, like, blah, 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 blah. The fact that there was a 6-second pause there where nobody damage was coming my way really helps the mathematical value of Thick Obsidian Breastplate, right? That's not going to hurt Thick Obsidian Breastplate. That's going to play to Thick Obsidian Breastplate's advantage, right? Because odds are it's during a time period where the internal cooldown is running, so we're not taking any spells during that time period. There's other weird little things that happen with us paladins, like bubbling, right? So it's like, oh, I'm going to bubble and heal myself to full. Well, that also works in favor of Thick Obsidian Breastplate. So it's like, I run at somebody, I seal twist, bomb them, Thick Obsidian Breastplate procs somewhere in there. I hodge stun them, I heal to full, they come out of the hodge stun, we fight for a little bit more. Thick Obsidian Breastplate probably reactivates and procs somewhere in there as well. At some point, I may have to bubble and then heal to full, and that, means Thick Obsidian Breastplate is going to be off a cooldown when we come out of it. So it's not like the 10-second internal cooldown affects us all that negatively, but it's definitely difficult to calculate. Then there's also weird things that I like to do against enemies that Thick Obsidian Breastplate would be really good for, like, fighting against shamans, for example, or mages is also a really good example, is we do a lot of running away from the mage in a straight line and then, stopping and healing ourselves to full, where the Thick Obsidian Breastplate is really, really valuable to us. But then we spend a lot of time chasing the mage until they can get a sheep on us. Then we spend a lot of time in the sheep. When we come out again, Thick Obsidian... It doesn't even matter if Thick Obsidian Breastplate has an ICD at that point. It's going to be amazing in that particular matchup. Like something very similar happens with shamans, where the shaman will be like, casting lightning bolts and shit at you. And your goal as the paladin is just to try to out-heal the incoming damage as best you can, but really you're just trying to charge up a wreck bomb. And once you're able to charge up a wreck bomb, you hit them with like a gnomish net-o-matic because they can't get out of it, or a goblin mortar, or a hodge stun or something, and you just like, or a grenade, and you just like, or even something as simple as a discombobulator ray if they're an orc and you're afraid that they're going to resist the grenade or the discombobulator ray. Or you pop a trinket like... Scrolls of Blinding Light, or Nifty Stopwatch. And moral of the story is you just run away from the damn shaman for a second after you've got like, 3 reckoning charges, and you like gear swap into your like your trinkets and stuff and you heal to full, and you come back in with like a full wreck bomb. Under those conditions, Thick Obsidian Breastplate is fucking amazing, right? If you're doing like some pump fakes, there's also weird scenarios where it's like, I've been beating on this warlock for a while. He's now feared me. I do a skeleton pet summon on him. I'm running around like a dumbass for at least 10 seconds before I come out of the fear. Then I might even be healing and eating and drinking to full, mounting up before I go after the warlock. The Obsidian Breastplate is basically, if there's any like downtime, even repent, if there's any downtime that just where the fighting suddenly stops and you're able to like heal yourself to full or eat and drink before fighting commences again, the 10-second ICD doesn't really matter. Does that make any sense? Okay, hopefully that makes some sense. So I am very, very torn on what the hell the value of Thick Obsidian Breastplate actually is right now. But I do know from experience that you just carry both of these around in your bag. So, like, for example, you'll have either like a tier 2 chest and thick obsidian breastplate, or you'll have your field marshals and thick obsidian breastplate in your bags, like basically ready to go. And one of those is going to be more to your taste or to your... You're just going to find out through experience which one you prefer and why with your play style. So my play style usually involves a lot of pump fakes. So I'll run at the enemy, see what they do, run away from them, heal back up. I like to hover at like the 30-yard range and just kind of heal against a lot of enemies, being a little bit tactical, waiting to see what they're going to do. Are they going to throw grenades? Are they not going to throw grenades? Like, what does the RNG lay look like? Blah, 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 blah. That's my fighting style. If you're just zug, run at people, then thick obsidian breastplate might not be the best thing in the world, or it might be, like, hell if I know. One of these is going to be the way you want to go. But what we do know for sure is that if for some reason you're putting on thick obsidian breastplate, it's not going to take you very long before you're like, why the hell am I even wearing these damn gloves? And the next thing you know, something like, scroll down, where are they at? Yeah, Gauntlets of the Righteous Champion become a thing, so why the hell are we even wearing Marshal's gloves? You can still see that we're still, like, you know, up a piece of Marshal's gear. So usually when Naxxramas comes around, we know exactly what the hell's that's going to be. That's going to be the Grand Crusader pauldrons, the famous pauldrons that when you actually see a Paladin, you know that they're not fucking around when you see them wearing these pauldrons. I'm a dwarf, you jackass. Dwarf male. Thank you. Yeah, so you see them running around wearing these pauldrons. That's when you know that's a Paladin you're not fucking around with. Why the hell do my gloves? Oh, they just look like bug gloves. Okay, that's cool, I guess. Yeah, so certain bits and pieces start getting tore off because you don't need them. Yada, yada, yada. But if we don't put a thick obsidian breastplate on and we're sticking with Grand Marshals, then the next thing we know, we want to keep our Grand Marshals gear. Yada, 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 right? The other thing you might be asking about is, what the hell about, or you should say, talk to me about Dark Edge of Insanity. All right, well, let's talk about the problem with Dark Edge of Insanity here. Dark Edge of Insanity is both amazing and dog shit all at the same time. And it all has to do with the fact of this little number over here called minus 16 fucking stamina and 1% melee crit. Okay? So, Dark Edge of Insanity has some advantages and some disadvantages. The way Dark Edge of Insanity works, in my personal opinion, is this. If we were in Nax gear, Dark Edge of Insanity becomes a legitimate weapon to wear. Because we have other sources of stamina that can make up for the stamina loss compared to the Grand Marshal's Sunderer. Okay? So, for example, let me go back to the more... let's go back to Marshals. Let's go back to, the Marshal's Gauntlets. And somehow I have more stamina than I'm supposed to have right now, but I don't know how exactly. Huh. Where do we get an extra 100 stamina from? Maybe that's just it being buggy? Weird. What if I reset it? Come on, you can do it. Weird. Whatever. Oh, the Spauldrons. Right. Jesus. Right. Field Marshals, Lamellar, blah, blah, blah. Missing gloves? Oh, maybe it's like some... it's probably... what's it called? Season of Discovery gloves. Yeah, there we go. That's better. So what happens with Naxxramas gear is you get access to Fortitude of the Scourge, which basically just gives you like straight up like plus 16 stamina. So on top of all the other little gear benefits that you get out of Naxxramas that give you more stamina, you just have access to being a thicker boy in your Naxxramas form of the build. And because of that, you don't actually... suddenly you don't mind using Dark Edge of the Insanity anymore. Because the only reason why Dark Age of Insanity is not taken over the Grand Marshal Summoner Sunderer is if for some reason you just need a thicker HP bar. Okay, that's the only reason why you would want a Grand Marshal Sunderer over a Dark Edge of Insanity. Even though, Grand Marshal Sunderer, it has 1% more critical strike, it's a 3.8 speed weapon, so theoretically it does better in the bombs. The Dark Edge of Insanity's base damage of 86 compared to 77, the fact that it's got 10 more strength on it, the fact that it's coming in here with a shit ton of agility. What the fuck do you mean you have 19 agility? Okay, so I guess they have the same critical strike. Okay, fuck off. This is just a better DPS weapon overall, especially since there's a good chance that this thing will proc its effect on a bomb, and the proc on this thing is basically worth a free Holy Light or just an extra auto attack. Dark Edge of Insanity is objectively better than a Grand Marshal Sunderer under the vast majority of combat conditions, with the sole exception of, do we need an extra 16 fucking stamina? The answer in Phase 5, or are we in Phase 4? Yeah, we're in Phase 5, because Phase 4 is Zul'Gurub. The answer in AQ40 time period is you need the fucking stamina, you need the fucking stamina. Holy fucking Christ, do we need the stamina. Okay, you follow me on this? Typically, let's go with Might of Minithil. Okay. So you'll notice that the Grand Marshal Sunderer has 41 stamina on it, and the Might of Minithil has 46 stamina on it. The Might of Minithil is literally an upgraded version of the Grand Marshal Sunderer. They basically have the exact same combat stats for all extensive purposes, right? What happens in AQ40 time period is that Paladin is at its weakest in AQ40 time period, and the spellcasters are literally at their strongest compared to going into Naxxramas. So, for example, the difference between spellcasters in AQ40 and spellcasters in Naxxramas gear, right? What is the difference between an AQ40 shaman and an a Naxxramas shaman, or a AQ40 mage and a Naxxramas mage? The answer is mostly spell hit. They might go up a little bit in spell crit, but we're talking 3% spell crit. Their spell power does not go up at all in the new Naxxramas gear. Their critical strike barely moves, and if it does move, we don't care because we're, eye for an eye reckoning paladins. And their HP bars don't really move all that much at all. There's very little combat difference, DPS, blah, 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 difference between an AQ40 PvP geared spellcaster and a Naxxramas geared spellcaster. Meanwhile, melee, the difference between an AQ40 geared melee class and a Naxxramas geared melee class is usually something stupid like 400 more HP, and then increases in critical strike and armor. Okay, you follow me on this shit? So when I say we're at our weakest right now, what I'm basically trying to say is that on Era right now, you need to have between 5,400 and 5,600 HP in order to fight any of the completely bissed out of their minds Naxxramas spellcasters in Classic WoW. That's the bare minimum HP points that you need to be able to PvP on the Era servers. On the Anniversary servers in AQ40, it's the exact same fucking number of amount of HP that you need. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes in the amount of HP that we need from Phase 5 to Phase 6 is how fucking easy it is to hit that, because suddenly we have access to, 16 fucking stamina from Fortitude of the Scourge. If I go over here and I type in, Grand Crusaders Pauldrons, where the hell are they? Right here. I'll scroll down a bit so it stops bugging out. You can stop bugging at any time now. Whoa, 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 whoa. Nobody asked you. Nobody asked you. I'll scroll way the hell down. Why do you keep bugging out? It's where I put the mouse causes it to bug out. How fascinating. Stop it. Stop bugging out. Why are you a weirdo? Why you like this? Why? Anyways. 18 stamina. Yeah, so you only gain like 2 stamina from that piece of gear. I want to say there's like some other leggings. Is it Grand Crusader leggings from Naxxramas? You gain like 1 stamina over here. Oh, the neck piece is where you gain a shit ton of stamina. I remember now. Because all the rings in Naxxramas have like hit gear and crap on them. So you get rid of like the Don Julios. And the next thing you know, it's like something stupid from Naxxramas is kind of like the ring that you want. Is it God Slayer? Well, that's fucking disgusting. What else changes? Unnatural Force. No. It's like Defender or some shit like that. Not Renumination. Not what the hell. Blah, 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 blah. Goddamn you, Season of Discovery. There should be like a check mark that removes Season of Discovery stuff. Band of Unnatural Forces. Spiritual Further. Seal of the Damned. I think that's a spellcaster ring if I recall. Yeah. Band of Renumination, Band of the Inevitable, Unanswered Prayers, that's a heal thing. Master Dragon Slayer, I vaguely remember that being decent. Yeah, 14 stamina, improve your chance to hit by 1%, attack power. Doesn't have critical strike, that's the problem. Anyways, there's a bunch of sources of additional hit gear and stamina gear in Naxxramas that just make it really easy for you to like basically have an additional like 300 HP on your Paladin from where you are right now. And because of that, you can like get rid of your Grand Marshal's Sunderer and actually take a Dark Edge of Insanity. But if you get your hands on a Might of Minithil, then we're right back at having like, 350 more stamina than we otherwise need on this character. The moral of the story is that in the current gearing, in the current game, we can't really trade out Grand Marshal Sunderer for Dark Edge of Insanity. Okay. Thank you, lag. And we can't do that because we will be too low on the HP breakpoints. So right now I'm sitting with the food buff. I'm smack dab in the middle of the HP breakpoint that I need in current phase and going into the future. Right? What was it? It was 5,400 to 5,600 is the bare minimum. The vast majority of what's causing that is the Grand Marshal Sunderer. If I put on a Dark Edge of Insanity, I would lose 16 stamina, and the next thing I know, I'd be below that breakpoint, which means I would have to give up something somewhere else. So I probably have to lose the Onny Tooth pendant and instead slap on a thicker stamina. But then I wouldn't be hit capped anymore for PvP. It's just not a good idea. So you're kind of basically stuck using your rank 14 weapon, even though you'd prefer to have a weapon upgrade in an AQ40. That's just not going to happen. Still not the worst idea in the world to try to get your hands on the Dark Edge of Insanity, just because come Naxxramas, when you get access to the more hit points, it will replace your Grand Marshal Sunderer until you get access to a Might of Minithil. And that honestly about sums it up. And that for me is basically my battle plan. Those are the 2 trinkets I'm going to be after. I'm going to try to get the new Gauntlets, even though, damn, I lose a critical strike when I leave the Gauntlets. That fucking sucks. So one of those 2 Gauntlets is going to be more to my satisfaction. It might be, hell, I might keep the Marshal's gloves. Fucking hell. Because I'll lose the set bonus and shit like that. No, wait. It's the belt that gives me, that I'm getting. Right, so I'm after those 2 trinkets. Then I'm after the belt from Twin Emps. Eventually, I'll want to get my hands on a neck piece, like a Mark of Kathun or whatever the hell neck piece it is. It's the one all the tanks want that nobody else wants. Is it Amulet of the Fallen God? What the hell is this? No. Mark of Kathun. There we go. 24 stamina. Increase your defense by +10. Increase your chance to dodge an attack by 1%. Improve your chance to hit by 1%. So I might replace that with a Mark of Kathun in the future. So, boop, we'll put that on right now. And you can already see that we're kind of off to the races with the stamina. This thing's got, what, like 10 more... what the hell did my Onny Tooth pendant have? The Onny Tooth pendant had a whopping 9 stamina. Fuck off, man. Anyways, The moral of the story is that in current phase, we need to hit end game stamina requirements, and to do that is kind of difficult right now. But once Nax Ramus comes out, it'll become incredibly easy. I mean, you got the Mark of Kathun, you got the fortified thing of the Scourge. We're already looking at like a plus 13 stamina there. You start stripping out these pieces here, they all go up like, you know, plus 2 stamina, plus 3 stamina, blah, 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 blah. The Don Julio's gets chucked in the trash in favor of like a 20, I forget what ring it is, but it's like 20 stamina, percent chance to hit, crit, or some crap like that. I really should try to find it since I might be literally talking out my ass on that one. Come here. It's not God Slayer. It's an X Ramus Ring. Spiritual Fervor. No. Eternium Band. No. Fallen Defender. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, so you get something like this. I guess you lose a critical strike, which really sucks. Isn't there another one that's really effing good around here? I forget. Right, but then theoretically you have a ring like this compared to like Don Julio's. We lost a percentage of crit, we lost a little bit of attack power, but we gained 13 fucking stamina, 140 armor, and we still have 1% chance to hit. So, which is why the hell we were wearing a Don Julio's anyways. You're just spoiled for stamina. And then there's the Dragon's Blood Cape. The Dragon Blood Cape, once you get into Nax Ramus, also... there's cloaks that also have like critical strike and shit on them and a lot of attack power and blah 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 blah. Is it Glacial Cloak? Is it Golden Hive? Golden Hive, if I vaguely remember, is decent. Untold Secrets? No. Scourge? I want to say Scourge. It's the Scourge one. Yeah, you get a cloak like this. 23 stamina, 30 attack power, improved chance to hit by 1%. You're basically spoiled for hit gear come Nax Ramus. And you can already see that even with those like tiny changes to my gearing, Fortitude, Mark of Kathun, this ring here, like I'm still like at 5% melee hit. And we've gone up like, you know, well over 450 fucking HP. Like dear fucking god. And that's before I start doing things like Might of Minithil. That'll increase my HP even more. What else can we do to increase the HP? I do believe these things become Grand Crusader, Grand Marshals, Crusaders. These things become like Grand Marshals leggings or some shit like that. And up and up and up and up, our stamina just keeps going. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. At this point, I think we're getting rid of the gloves. Yeah, we're getting rid of the gloves. Redemption Handguards, no. Gauntlets of Annihilation. I remember that's good. But again, it over hit caps. Drakova often talks about not minding going to 6% hit at this particular stage in the game because there's a lot of like warriors and shit running around that actually have enough mitigation gear that you can make use of the 6% hit, which, you know, okay, makes sense. But Jesus Christ, are you just swimming in an ocean of hit gear? Gauntlets of Annihilation. I think Drakova does use Gauntlets of Annihilation, like unironically. He takes the HP hit because critical, yeah, and then it puts him over the top. I don't like that idea though. I don't know. These gauntlets are really fucking good. Righteous Champion. Gauntlets of the Righteous Champion. Strength, stamina, intellect. Is the same stamina, blah, blah, blah. Crit chance. I guess damage and healing is better than the 21, so yeah, it's just better gloves. And then you end up something stupid like this, and you can just see the HP is just continuing to skyrocket. Absolutely insane. Keep in mind that this used to be like, you know, 3060, so that's what, like additional 500 fucking HP. So if this thing wasn't broken right now, it would actually be showing us something closer. It would literally be this. Plus 5 hundo. You'd be at 5,901 HP as a Dwarf Paladin in Classic WoW right now in the gear that we're currently looking at. But this is like Nax Ramus gearing type deal. That's too much. A lot of Paladins like running around with 5,900 HP. I forget what they end up sacrificing to get more crit. I think, unironically, it's the Dragon's Blood Cape, and they swap it out for, yeah, because it's got crit and attack power. So they'll swap it out for like a Shroud of the Dominion or something like that. Yeah, they get that 5,800. So when Dracova's running around in Classic WoW, he's running around with about 5,800-ish hit points. A lot of Paladins in Era like running around with 5,800 hit points. You only need 5,600 statistically speaking. The extra 200 HP does do a little bit for you, but it's not super necessary. You could live without it. It's just a season to taste at that point. But right now, in Phase 5, AQ40, we have to hit our HP breakpoints, and the only fucking way to do that is to literally live and breathe your Grand Marshal Sunderer. Like unironically. It's to just... You gotta wear the stupid weapon. It just is what it is. Anyways, I'll end the video here and Datus Vault, but that's kind of the TLDR of that. Oh, other things worth noting here. Let's see, what is it specifically? Enchants on gloves, now that AQ40 came out, you don't actually want to use 7 agility. I know that sounds weird, right? 7 agility and additional, like, let me think. I guess I divide it by 2. 7 divided by 20. An additional 0.35% chance to crit and a little bit of armor. That's not really worth it, in my opinion. You might disagree, which is fine. You're probably better off going with... Ooh, do we get 15 agility? What? What? Huh. Okay, well, if this isn't Season of Discovery, I can get behind 15 agility. Right, so your choices are, like, you know, plus 30 healing or apparently, like, plus 15 agility, okay? Now, 15 agility is not bad. That's pretty much a 0.75% increase in critical strike. I can get behind that. Huh. I was going to say you want to take the plus 30 healing on your gloves. I'm not entirely sure. Like, either one of those is really good. I think it's seasoned to taste for your playstyle, if I have to think about it. I don't think I have any enchant on my gloves right now currently in game. Let's check it out. Okay, I got the plus 7 agility enchant on my gloves currently. So my options are either plus 30 healing on the gloves or plus 15 agility on the gloves. Depending upon your playstyle and what you're struggling with to beat, either of those is perfectly fine. Now, what route will I go? Let me think. I will probably end up going the plus 15 agility route because gaining a close to a 1% critical strike over 30 healing is actually really good. And I'm just going to recognize those situations where plus healing would be really good and just be smarter than the situation, okay? So I'm knowledgeable enough to make that work. If you're not knowledgeable enough to make it work, then do something else. So, for example, I'm already proposing getting rid of the Onny Tooth pendant for the Mark of Kathun. That's going to drop my critical strike by a considerable amount, but it'll increase my HP by a noticeable amount. Probably won't do that. It's probably not worth it, actually. I'll give you an example, okay? So, against a shaman, the easiest way to deal with a shaman is to just let them cast on you for a while until you get, like, you know, a good 2 or 3 reckoning charges. And then to use your Gnomish Detomatic grenades, discombobulated ray, whatever the hell you have on tap, to basically just run away and reset the fight. So you'll run away a little bit, you know, you'll get yourself, you'll literally be running away from the shaman, you'll drop combat, you'll literally hit this button right here to get your food buff going, and then you'll stop and basically heal yourself to full. Now, in theory, the shaman's, like, you know, stuck back there, rooted in a net while you do this. So you're like, 3 holy lights. Okay, I'm nice and topped off. You do your trinket swapping during this time period, you know, gear swapping if you need to. So the field marshal's plate might come off, and on comes the thick obsidian breastplate, you know, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to stand there and try to out-heal a shaman, more than likely, especially if they popped, like, their stupid burst trinkets, or I can tell that they popped their burst trinkets. I'm going to just be like, here, have a Netomatic, later bitch. I'll get my reckoning charges, but I'll be later bitching them. And then I'm basically going to mount up, and I'll probably get some drinks in, but I'll mount up and I'll just come back in again. Well, I'd probably freedom and mount up, mind you, but I would just come back in again. If I was going to stand still and try to out-heal them, then the plus 30 healing is 100% the way to go. But since, based upon the trinkets I'm usually running for PvP, I can just use my brain and be smarter than the problem. And the next thing I know, I would rather have the plus 15 agility more than I would have the plus 30 to healing, if that makes any sense. Something similar happens with other matchups, and, you know, yada, 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 yada. Anyways, so on the video here, Deus Vult, and yeah. Oh, other fun facts. Let me try refreshing this. This critical strike is freaking me out. Why? 4.5%? You're really bothering me, homie. Huh, weird. Anyways, I hope Wowhead fixes their stuff soon so I can actually get some more appropriate stats going here. Yeah, anyways, I was going to talk about why you want plus 30 healing on this thing, but if we have 15 agility, I'm probably going to do that and just be smarter than the problem than those places that otherwise would do. But again, my primary trinkets that I like to use are Goblin Mortar and good old Netomatic. Just in case I haven't said this before, you haven't heard this like a million times, Goblin Mortar. Okay, there we go. Netomatic, cool. I have tested Netomatic 100 times back in the day when I was ranking in Silithus and collecting dust. She has about a 20% chance to fail. The way she works is she has a 60% chance to work just like she says in the tin. She has a 20% chance to net the enemy and cause you to charge into the enemy and net you after you make a charge contact with the enemy. So both of you are like literally on top of each other, but you're both netted. There's a 20% chance of that happening, but only if you're facing the target when you activate the Netomatic. If you're facing away from the target and you activate the Netomatic, that 20% chance to do that charge thing just turns into a 20% chance to work as normal. Okay, you follow me on that? And then, of course, there's a 20% chance that Netomatic just whiffs. Okay, just does not work. Or I should say more accurately, nets you rather than netting the enemy. But as a Paladin with freedom, that basically means doesn't work. Okay, so 60% chance works normally, 20% chance it'll charge you towards the enemy or not, depending upon how you want it to happen. And then 20% of the time, it'll net you rather than the enemy, which is just dumb because we just freed them ourselves, right? If you're not okay, so if this is my battle plan versus a shaman, is I'm going to take their shit on the chin for a little bit until I get some reckoning charges, then I'm going to gnomish net them. A 20%, relying on a 20% chance failure rate sounds kind of bad. But I do have Goblin Mortar and grenades and discombobulator rays behind that. So, for example, if it's a Tauren, there's a really good chance the grenades are going to allow me to break contact with them. There's a really good chance Goblin Mortar will allow me to break contact with them. The discombobulator ray is primarily there for in case they're an orc, because it's not a stun. It's just a 20% slow for 12 seconds. All these things will allow me to run away long enough to be able to drop combat to get into some more specialized gear for fighting them. Worst case scenario is I just swap on over to like my healing gear. So we'll put on that. I don't have a shield. Oh, right, because I'm about to go, what's it called? I'm about to go farm an area. But I can literally swap to like my healing weapon and whatnot, and then try to out-heal them from there, you know, blah, 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 blah. So I think I'm just going to find more use. Moral of the story is I can be smarter than the situation in those places where I could really use a plus 30 healing. And so I'm probably better off, you know, going with the plus 15 agility. But 100% have to use this stupid rank 14 weapon because we're pretty desperate for stamina in the AQ40 phase. So if you're not using your wild blossom berries, get used to using your damn wild blossom berries. Get used to doing your best to try to have 5,500-ish HP, or because the spell, this is the strongest that the spellcasters will ever be in Classic WoW. Okay, this is when they're at their strongest. This is when we are technically at our weakest by comparison. Yeah, it changes come next. So anyways, it's not good, enough to save them. They're still completely fucking boned if I was to duel them. It's a lot closer than it should be, or I'd really want it to be. But anyways, all the video here, and Day Assault.